Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. What is going on? I am actually doing this 2 weeks in a row. Maybe I'll actually keep doing it. That is the plan, to do these on Wednesday mornings. And I get that the time might change here and there, but the goal is to do it at this time. Yeah, so how is everybody? How is life? How are things going? I've been doing this amazing starting from scratch series about starting a business, which has brought up all sorts of fun things in my world. And today was day 3, so this is actually my second live of the day, and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning here, so that's amazing. But, gosh, what was I going to say? I don't even know before I dive in. I suppose I should introduce myself. I am Dr. Melissa Mann. I generally just go by Melissa to most people. And I'd like to start doing these regularly. So I did one last week on business, and that has been what has been so potent in my world. And I want to talk to you today a little bit about being a contribution and recognizing that you already are a contribution. And I know that kind of blows people's minds, and they're like, how am I a contribution? I'm not doing anything, or I'm not doing enough, or we go into all this judgment on how we are not enough of a contribution, or what that even means. And I had a conversation yesterday with a young person who, early 20s, about what they'd really like their life to look like, and what the projections and expectations of everybody else are, and like how they've projected that onto her. So she's about to finish college, and I work with a lot of people who are at that kind of age group, like finishing up college and trying to figure out like what's next. And there's so much projection from everybody onto them and all of us, right? About like what you should choose now. Well, now it's time to go get a really good paying job, and now you should figure out like what you're gonna do really for the rest of your life. And we've been having that pressure on you since you were 3 years old to know what you're gonna do the rest of your life. But now it's really time to start the rest of your life. And I remember Simone Milasas has talked about where she is like was traveling the world and doing all these things, and she came home and everybody's like, all right, so now you're gonna settle down and not go anywhere, right? And she was like, what? No, I'm just getting started. What are you talking about? And so this reality projects so much about like what your life has to look like, and that like when it's time to like get a job that would contribute to society. This was sort of the conversation we were having yesterday. She thought that she was going to be a computer programmer, and then she was like, I don't know if that's what I really want to do, but I'm going to do like get a degree in animal conservation and do like be a contribution in that way, and go to Africa and work with elephants and like all these things that she was hoping to do. And then she came in here yesterday, and she loves horses, and she's been doing a lot of work with horses. And she was like, you know what, I really kind of just want to work with horses. And I was like, cool, do that, so what? But where she was getting stuck was in this, well, what is everybody else going to think? They're going to tell me I'm wasting my potential. She's a very intelligent girl, and she could do all sorts of things. And what she loves is working with horses. And I was like, and if you choose to work with horses for, a year or 5 years, 10 years, and decide you want to do something else, then you can choose something else. And you can do that and other things if you want to do other things while you're also doing that. And what else? And she was so stuck on the like, but everybody's going to be disappointed in me, or they're going to think that I'm like not enough of a contribution to society, was sort of the conversation we were having. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. So, and I didn't make her wrong for it, but we just kind of played with this of like, what if you working with horses in whatever way that you do, whether, you're training kids, because that's one of the things, or you're doing shows, or you're like taking care of the horses. Like, what if that is what's bringing you joy? You're communing with the horses, you're communing, which is like a way of communicating with, or communing with the earth and other people. You're showing other people your joy with the horses. You're teaching them how to be in total communion with nature. And what if that is actually what the earth is asking for and requires? And she's like, yeah, but shouldn't there be some like other way of, some bigger way, is what she was looking for, was a bigger way to be a contribution to the earth and to the environment and all the things. And we really looked at like, what if you being you, and you having joy in your life, in your being, in communion with all the things, the molecules and the animals and the plants and the earth and all of those things, like what if that is a humongous contribution, and what if you're already being that? So everywhere that you've gone into like, whatever I'm doing isn't enough, or I'm not being enough to be the greatest contribution, would you be willing to destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And if you've never heard that before, that is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. And you can go to theclearingstatement.com if you'd like more information on that. But basically, we just pull the energy of anything up, and that's like hitting the delete button. And it just like lets all of those energies start to go and dissipate. So we just started to talk about like the studies that they've done where people talk to plants, and where they have somebody saying kind words to a plant and being excited about their existence and happy to have them, and then where they talk to another plant and say mean words and mean things, and that plant tends to die or wilt or not grow as well. And so I was trying to explain this concept of like how her being joy and enjoying her life and having fun was a contribution. And I was like, I don't know how to make this concrete. And then I remember that study, or many studies with the plants. And I was like, yeah, but can you see how that's actually contributing to the earth? By you being you, by you being joyful, by you having every day a day that you're excited about what you're doing, and you wake up and you look forward to it, and it never feels like work. What if that is a massive contribution to the planet in the way that it's not linear, and it maybe doesn't make logical sense if you try to quantify it, but you being the joy that you be is a contribution to the world, to all the people you interact with, to the horses, if that's what you're doing. But this can apply to everything, right? To everybody you interact with, to the planet, to every step you take, and everywhere that you commune with anything on the planet, you being the joyful version of you, who you truly be, is a contribution, because it is creating more joy and more ease and more fun on the planet. And if everybody would have way more joy and way more fun and stop taking everything so fucking seriously, would everything actually get better? And when things sort of start to melt, and all the trauma and drama and upset and intrigue that people do, and then that is what they project into the world. So you're having a shit day, whatever, or you watch the news, God forbid, and you like see all these things going on in the world, and you're like, oh my god, the trauma and drama, everything's awful, the world is falling apart. And you go to another person and you're like, oh my god, did you see this thing on the news, everything's going to shit, blah blah blah. And they're like, oh, I know. And that is the vibration that like continues to go out into the world, and every person that they interact with. And not only people, but just like the molecules around them, much like the example of the plants, as things become diminished. But when you're like, hey, like I'm having this amazing, I had this amazing class this weekend, and I had this amazing conversation with somebody, and things are moving and exciting and joyful, and like, oh my god, did you see the sunset last night? And I mean, all the ways that like we can be the joy, then that creates greater, because someone's like, oh my god, yeah, let me tell you about this thing that happened that was so amazing, and like I'm having so much fun doing this, and like, oh my god, like what a beautiful day today. And whatever that is, that creates more of that on the planet. And so what if you actually being joyful, having fun, doing whatever it is that completely lights you up is so much more of a contribution than you've acknowledged? And would you be willing to acknowledge that? Yeah, wow, everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it, right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds? And where have you decided that whatever you're doing or being is not enough? And anywhere that you're making yourself wrong and being like, well, I was totally complaining yesterday, or like I was in such a bad mood, so you're saying I was, being a diminishment to the planet, blah, 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 blah. So everywhere you're making yourself wrong for any choice you had yesterday, or 5 minutes ago, when you destroy and create that, right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. What else could you be now? What else could you choose now? And just ask for it. You can ask, like, one of my favorite questions is, universe, show me the contribution of me. Show me the infinite contribution I truly be that I haven't been willing to see until now. So ask for that. Ask to see that the contribution that you are, and this is actually a conversation we were having on day 1 of the Starting From Scratch series, was this conversation about like in business, like what are you so good at that you don't even recognize you're good at it because it's ease for you. And what do other people tell you? And what else are you just aware of, whether other people see it or not, that is so easy for you and fun for you that you can't imagine making money doing it? And of course, that was also this conversation with this girl about, you know, her loving working with horses, but doesn't see that as something that A, is a contribution or could be a career. And so what is it for you that you love to do, that you have so much fun doing, that when you do it, you light up and you are the invitation to other people for that energy, for that joy, for that communion with the earth, for that being more, for that being of you. And when you're being you, when you're being that, you are the invitation of that to everybody around you, everybody that interacts with you at all. Have you ever had like a minute conversation with somebody, like you walk in a store, or like, so maybe it's like the store clerk or somebody, you know, waiting in line for you at the coffee shop or something, and like it's, you know, less than a minute conversation, but they're being something different. They're being an energy that is joy, or that is just like genuine caring. And they're like, oh my God, how's your day going? And you're like, whatever it is, good, bad, whatever. And you get that in that moment, they genuinely care. And there's like this connection, even if it's a split second, and you walk out going like, wow, that was so cool. You don't realize how many times a day, how many times within your life that you are that for somebody. Even if you're not recognizing it, or you don't even like, if you can't find it in this moment. So one of the things I encouraged people to do on day one and starting from scratch is at the end of the day to go back through your day and start to look for all the places in that day that you were a contribution. And don't make it significant of like, oh, well, I was a contribution to this person because we had this hour conversation and I told them all these great pieces of advice. Like, don't actually look for that. Just kind of go through your day and be like, oh, like, where was I joy here? Where was I being me here? Where was I having fun here? Where was I laughing? Where was I, you know, just smiling and being like natural with somebody? Where, you know, all of those things throughout the day, and start to see like what was so much ease for you and what was so much fun for you that you didn't even see it or recognize it in the moment. But as you go back through your day, you can start to see spaces and places where you were a contribution to everyone and everything just by being you. Play with it. See what comes up for you. And continue to ask, like, universe, show me the contribution that I be, and make it loud and obvious if I'm not seeing it, so that I can see those spaces. And if you want to go one further, ask, hey, is there a way that I can make money doing this? And the answer is always yes. You can make money doing absolutely anything. And so if you're trying to like pigeonhole you into like what your like day-to-day has to look like, what your job has to be like, how you're supposed to make money, would you be willing to ask a question instead of come to conclusion about like what that is supposed to look like, or what other people have projected at you that your job, your way to make money, your career, your whatever that is, that what that's supposed to look like based on somebody else's projections and expectations and judgments and conclusions that have nothing to do with you? And ask something different. Like, hey, if I was living the life I would actually like to live, if every day was fun for me, if I could be the joy and the space and the ease of me truly being me, what could I choose? And what choices are available to me that I've never previously acknowledged? So things to play with, things to look at and start to really acknowledge. You know, I heard Dane say, I forget what it was in some recording I was listening to, that he had just gotten that he was a gift, that he was a contribution. And it may have actually been the contribution conversation now that I'm thinking about it, which was from a class that happened, I think in a Maestro class at one point with Access Consciousness. But it was like after all his years in Access Consciousness, after all the people he had worked on, after all the classes he'd done, it was like he finally had this moment where he like got that he was a contribution. And so would you be willing to not take 20 years of doing whatever it is you've been doing to actually see the contribution that you are? And this isn't linear, you guys. This doesn't have to be because of your job or because of who you work with or because of like something specific. It can be kind of like I was saying, like just in absolutely everything. And it isn't always to other people, even though you are that just by being you, but it might be with the earth. It might be with the animals. It might be in the spirit world, you know, with entities. It might be 100 different things. And so like, just start to look at like where you are not acknowledging the gift that you be, and start to acknowledge it. Because when you acknowledge something, it grows. The more you acknowledge the gift of you, the more that you are a gift. So everything that doesn't allow that, we destroy it and create it. Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, pack, all night, shorts, boys, and behinds. Cool. All right, you guys, I think that's about all I have for you today. But I will be on next Wednesday, and ideally every Wednesday after that, unless there's a conflict, in which case I'll change the day or something. And we'll see where it takes us. I have a, in 2 weeks from today, I don't think it's from today. It's in 2 weeks, not from today. I think it's like a Tuesday. I have a SOP with the ocean while I'm in Jamaica. So that should be really fun if you're looking for something fun there. And just some other classes and stuff coming up. You can always go to drmelissamahon.com, which is DrMelissamahon.com. That has all my upcoming classes and things going on. I have a few local classes coming up here in the Chicago area as well, a facelift class, a bars class, and a November foundation. So check all of that out, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.